This is the Rush Discuss, where the discuss is Rush. All right, hello, and welcome to another episode of the Rush Discuss. If you notice from the title, today is not a battle episode. It's not what we promised last week of battling out Ghost of a Chance versus Faithless. It is actually an interview. We're going to interview Lauren and Daniel. We did interview them a long time ago, and just now we're able to release it. But we want to have a more consistent release schedule, and so we're not going to do like we did last bracket of releasing 2 episodes a week. We'll just still do 1 episode a week. Keeps the content consistent, gives us a little bit more breathing room to edit and release all these episodes while also taking care of things around the house. Because for those of you watching on YouTube, I've got a toilet sitting in this room. You probably noticed it in previous episodes, but I've got a remodel going on in this bathroom that's next to this room, and it's been crazy. But like I said, we want to make sure that this stuff stays consistent for you guys, and so we are pushing our battle episode of Ghost of a Chance and Faithless off till next week, because Lauren and Daniel, they have a really cool story about Ghost of a Chance in this interview with them. Now, Lauren and Daniel are from Scotland. If you remember from last week, they shared some really cool stuff about Resist. And while we were on that interview, we wanted to talk to them about their relationship, because they told us over Instagram, because this was back when we were asking for a lot of people to just, share experiences they've had with songs. And they reached out and said, hey, is there still time? And because we'd love to talk about Rush and how it is being a married couple that loves Rush. And we thought, we're a married couple that loves Rush. And so it'd be a cool conversation. And they have some excellent stories having to do with Rush. So I leave that to you to listen to their interview. And we will get to a battle episode next week. And yeah, just keep watching for a consistent release every week. But for now, enjoy Lauren and Daniel talking about Rush and how it's been being a married couple that enjoys the band together. Welcome, Lauren and Daniel. So as I said in our intro, guys, this is the magic of the internet. We just, they reached out to us, said, hey, if you haven't found anyone else to talk about these songs, we'd be interested. And we started going back and forth a little bit, and now we're here. And it's awesome that we can connect with people all over the world and do this. But before I go any further, Lauren and Daniel, can you just introduce yourselves and let us know who you are, what makes you tick, all those such good things.
Cool, thanks very much. Well, I'm Lauren. I'm 32 and I live in Scotland.
I'm Daniel and I'm 33 and I'm Lauren's husband and I live in Scotland. And if I wanted to know what made me tick, well, I think, I don't know, psychiatrists or psychologists could write a book on it probably, I don't know. But
podcast is not Lauren.
Awesome. Yeah. So Lauren also, she paints, which she, check out her Instagram, which we'll get all that info at the end for you guys. But she did this really cool painting of Getty, Alex, and Neil. You guys definitely need to check that out. But yeah, how did both of you get into Rush?
I think I'll start answering with this one because then it'll make sense. So I first got into Rush through my dad. like Rush aside, like my mum and dad had a massive musical impact on me growing up as a child. You know, I was born in the late 80s, and then, you know, growing up all the way through the 90s as well, like with all the music coming out at that time. And it was just, music was a big deal in our family. We just constantly, if we were listening to it in the car, listening to it at home, it was just constant. So I got into Rush. I remember it well because I just had this conversation with my dad like last week or so, because I'd asked him if he remembered the first time that I heard Rush, because he was with me. So I was in the car with my dad, and my dad was like going through like some music and stuff, and he was like, "Oh, let's listen to this." And he said, "Lauren, I want you to pay attention to this album, right? And really listen to the words, right? The lyrics are powerful." And I was just like, okay. So I think I was about, I don't know, like I wasn't that young. Like I think I was maybe like, I want to say I was maybe like 12 or 13. So like young enough, you know, that I was like borderline teenager, but kind of old enough to kind of understand what my dad was asking for me. Right, my dad wants me to listen to the lyrics. Cool. So he put on 2112. So 2112 was my first exposure to Rush. 12?
You're 12 at 10.
Or 12 or 13-ish. I wish it was 12. I think I might have been 13. But 2112, and we listened to it in the car. And I, for whatever reason, like the kind of overture and the tempo of settings, I just kind of like washed over. And my first memory of Rush was Discovery, because I thought it was just so cool, like, you know, hearing all the kind of like the ambient noises first, you know, like the waterfall and the kind of caves, and then the, you know, the plucking of the guitar. And it was just immediate storytelling, and it got like my attention. I was like, right, I can understand why my dad has asked me to focus on this, because this is not just like every other music that I've heard. You know, like this is a story. And like listening to Discovery, so that was my first memory of Rush. So yeah, my dad and listening to music in the car, essentially. Dagan?
Mine was a little bit different, because I've heard all the tales of growing up in your household, where different albums playing, whether it was Rush ones or Pink Floyd, or, you know, dancing about to Lenny Kravitz or whatever. And I could compare it, and for whatever reason, my folks weren't as big on music. I do recall the ones that I remember mostly was ABBA Gold, which at the time I didn't have much care for, but a more distinguished ear can go, that's some good pop music there. The other one I always remember is Queen's A Night at the Opera, because my dad he would play the cassette. I was about the only cassette in the car, and he'd had it since I think it was his third copy, because he kept wearing them out. It was, but it was, I listened to that more so than anything else at the time. And as an album, it's so diverse itself that it kind of opened me up to, the music's good. But there wasn't really anything major else. The only other thing my folks really listened to, and that's more maybe the past 10, 15 years, is the Proclaimers. The famous Scottish band, you know, 500 Miles and all that. So not as diverse as your parents had been. So my first one for Rush was when I was in high school. I would go to the local library, and you could get 10 CDs out at a time with your library card. So I'd get 10 CDs, and I can't remember how many books it was, but it was all, I'd usually get a bunch of graphic novels, you know, Avengers and Batman and whatever else. So I'd be reading my comics, listening to music. And it was back in the days as well. So this was pre, listen to me sounding old here. broadband internet. It was dial-up still, and it was our broadband was just coming in, but it was before all the other methods that you can acquire things these days.
Streaming services, and
I was even meaning before the days of LimeWire and the library was a good go-to thing for a teenager who had no outgoing money of any sort. And I would get them in, and it was, again, Apple computers weren't a big thing, so it was Windows Media Player was the go-to option. And I liked it because it would tell you this is who you're listening to, but it had a similar bands, who influenced them and who did they influence. And so I would dive in and see if I could find any of these other bits for people I liked. So I was really into like 70s rock and stuff like that. The Queens, the Bowies, the Deep Purples, the Thin Lizzies, stuff like that. When everybody else at school tended to be into Green Day and The Offspring and
My Chemical
Romance was a bit later, I think. But all the kind of, I don't know what the genre they would be classified as, but they were the kind of, that's what who I thought were the cool kids I listened to. But for some reason, Rush, they only had 2 albums in the library, and that was All the World's a Stage, which is a good live album, but when you get no reference for the songs before it, I always like live. Some people don't like live albums. I like them, but only once I've got some kind of understanding for the songs themselves. When you hear it out of context, it's just a bit, I don't understand where these songs are, how it relates. And the other album that they had was Vapor Trails, and because this was the early 2000s, it was the original mix.
Yeah.
And it's not the best mix. I've listened to the newer one. I prefer the newer one myself. And it's, when you hear the two, I couldn't comprehend it was the same band for some reason. I'm getting excited.
I know.
I couldn't comprehend it was the same band doing both. And for whatever reason, Rush just never seemed to show up in the lists of similar bands influenced or whatever. So I never really paid much attention apart from what I could. I mean, I was listening to old blues music and Frank Zappa and all good stuff, but for some reason I was missing out on Rush. And then we met, which we might be discussing. I don't know if that'll come up or what, but we met, and then I was up at your house one evening, when I think it was a Friday or a Saturday night, and your dad says, "Oh, we'll put this concert on." And was that his first time watching his R30?
That was the first time we'd ever seen Rush perform live. Although my dad had seen Rush, but we'd never actually sat down and watched a concert together. So that was the first.
So that was your first time watching them. That was my first time, not just watching them, but hearing them as well properly. And I sat down and I watched. And that's partly why I've got a preference for the R30 acoustic version of Resist over the live one. This was how what's the word I'm looking for? How I don't want to say innocent, that's not the right word. How oblivious I suppose I was at the time. Because first time properly listening, first time hearing, and I was just blown away by, opens with, the overture, and it's about 10 minutes long, and I'm just sitting there going, this is amazing, straight to Spirit Radio. But I then went back and went through everything and consumed it as best as, it's us and everything. And I was so sad because not a single album had a track called Der Troubler. And it took me years to figure out, that was just the drum solo, but I was so blown away. I'm like, what's the album version of that like, But that was how oblivious I was at the time. But that was supposed to be my mind started. I had an understanding previously, but because I didn't have that connection growing up like you did, I discovered it later on once we started kind of courting, as the Scottish word is.
That's how we say it in Scotland. We say
courting.
courting.
And
we say that.
there's been many sort of not just Rush, but other kind of music and stuff that your dad's recommended or talked about, and I realised, what have I been missing out on all this time?
So that brings it pretty well to the next thing that I was curious about is how did you meet and how did Rush factor into your relationship?
So the long and short of it is that we met at it was my first job. So I was in my last year at high school. So I was a senior year in high school. It was my first part-time job when I was still at high school. And Daniel was in his first year of university. So yeah, that's how we met, was like through a work environment. And I think this will maybe kind of tie in well with what I wanted to say here. So I think we were pals first. Like, it wasn't exactly like love at first sight, but Daniel did catch my eye. You know, like, so the place that we worked in, I'm not gonna say names, but it's like a retail store that sells a variety of things. So you've got clothing, home stuff, you know, DVDs. It's like similar to like Americans' Target, I guess.
Okay.
But it's like the British version of that. So that's where we worked, and you know, we were pals first. You know, for a long time. Like, I think like maybe a good few months at least. Anyway, like kind of maybe 6 months or something into the job or whatever.
And then it was the work night out that had this mirrored waistcoat and the zebra print platforms. That's the man for me.
I know, it was a peacock moment, definitely trying to kind of show off here, like, and I was just like, oh my god, you know, like, whoo. But
to be fair, I was just wearing what I wanted to wear in a night out. But
no. So this will tie in nicely as to what I wanted to say. So in the very, very early stages of our relationship, as it was just blossoming, I think we were maybe going out for about 2 or 3 weeks or something. And round about that time, Rush had announced tour dates for Snakes and Arrows. Mm-hmm. So that was the time that we started kind of going out, and that was a really cool thing to like experience together. Like, when Rush, this band that I've been listening to throughout my teenage years, and Daniel had kind of like tapped into a little bit, we're releasing new music, and like to have that happening in the moment as well was really cool to witness. So Snakes and Arrows tour was just announced, and me and my dad managed to get tickets, and I started this new job, and then, you know, Daniel and I started dating, and I checked the rota for the week that I was going to go to the show, and they put me in to work.
Oh no!
And they did this all the time because you couldn't, you know, you only got so many days holiday you could get when you had, you know, a 20-hour week, a 20-hour contract or whatever. So you would go, oh, don't put me in this. I can do any other day that week, just not this day. And they were renowned for either forgetting or forgetting, you know. So everybody would suffer from this. I can't do that day. Oh. And then this reads into what happened.
No, I promise we're not roasting. We're not roasting the place of work. We're just trying to voice our frustrations at the time. But so Snakes and Arrows tour, I was working. They put me into work the day that I was meant to go to the show with my dad, and because I'd just started the job, I didn't find my voice. I didn't learn to resist.
6 months in, I think.
I didn't learn to resist and ask. I was like, actually, I've got a concert. Can you please take me off? I was literally ready to be like, well, I'm in work, you know, que sera sort of thing. And then Daniel probably did the most romantic gesture to date. 2 weeks into our relationship or whatever, like he said, I'll cover your shift, Lauren, so you can go to the show. So when he said that to me, I was like, get yourself a man who will cover your shift. You can go to the Rush concert, like. So that was hands down the most romantic thing. And I knew when Daniel said that, I was like, that's a big deal. Like, he's a keeper.
Because I was in the menswear bit. So I'd be putting T-shirts out and folding jeans and things. And Lauren's bit was on the tills or the checkout, so the cashier. And we would do that as well when it was busy, but I hated doing that. That's another reason Lauren was like, oh... yeah, I'll do the thing I hate most in the shop so you can get to see Rush.
That's
so sweet.
No, I know.
What a cool way to tie Rush into your relationship, though. Dang. Like, that's awesome.
So, hold on, we got a kid.
Okay. That's okay.
I'm surprised we've not had a cat yet.
I know we've got 2 cats cutting about. They have been kind of jumping up and down from the window, but they won't come up here. They've got no desire to come up.
Yeah.
Here.
They don't know much about Rush, to be fair.
No, I know.
Yeah, so we'll wait for her to come back. Because fortunately that happened right at a perfect time to cut all this without missing what you guys are saying. So
It's okay.
Yeah. We're currently, if you've noticed, our background is, if you've watched any of the videos, it's different than what we normally have. We're currently moving all of our stuff around and redoing all the house and everything. So it's crazy time.
I hope it's a positive experience for you and not too stressful.
Oh, yeah.
It is.
It's been great because we're living with my parents and we're just doing a whole combined household. Everybody's on board with it. They get to be near the grandkids and we get to have help with the kids. Yes. All right. So would you say that Daniel taking that shift was kind of like what kicked the relationship up a gear?
Well, are you waiting for me to respond?
Well, I don't know. I just done the shift and just thought that's a nice thing I'm doing.
As I said before, I think when Daniel had said that, at the time I didn't really register. I think it's like when time had passed and I had time to reflect and then think back on that moment in time when you said, I'll cover your shift so you can go to the Rush show. And I was like, so when I had time to think back on that, I was like, oh my, this is a big deal. Like this guy cares about you, like, that he'll put himself through absolute misery. So you're off, living blasé at this concert that, you're living your best life, and then I'm stuck behind a till kind of thing for the next 4 hours. But
It was quiet that night.
because so yeah, I would definitely say that was a massive positive staple in our foundation of our relationship, to say that, if you cover a shift for me so you can go to the show, like that's a good thing. So
awesome. So then are there any songs that are your favorites as a couple that you kind of became important to you guys?
That's a question, isn't it? Because it's always so hard to pick favourites from the Rush catalogue. But I suppose as a couple, I don't know if favourite would be a correct term here, but something that has got a bit more significance, I suppose. There's 2 in particular that would stand out. One would be Ghost of a Chance, and that was because at at our wedding for our first dance. I know most people just pick one song for a first dance at a wedding, but we couldn't pick one song. We had so many different, not just Rush, but so many other bands that we liked the music of and songs. And well, we had the idea to make a kind of mashup and have a kind of a less traditional first dance to begin with.
Uh-huh.
And I think it ended up with about 30 different songs in it or so. And we were ranging from, I think there was some Queen, Jamiroquai, we even had the Sons of Anarchy theme tune at one point in it, and all different things, Fleetwood Mac, Prince, and we choreographed a routine in our kitchen that no one else knew about. And trying to upscale that from the kitchen, which is quite small, to the sort of dance space that we had to try and keep it so we still hit all our beats and our timings for the different bits. And I'd put it all together on the GarageBand, I think, because you were able to have little like record scratches and like radio signal dial, like static noises for changing the songs. And we ended it with Ghost of a Chance because it's a slower one, it's quiet, it's in a sense it's the we done it so we ended with the I don't believe in stars and the planets and angels guiding from above, or I'm going to have misquoted there, but I believe there's a ghost of a chance to find someone to love and make it last. So we're doing that, but because we'd done this kind of unusual thing, we thought, oh, we'll get other people up to join in for a wee kind of slow dance at that point, like my folks, your sister, and like my best man and stuff like that. And we told people, listen out, there'll be a quieter one at the end, you'll know what one, because we all started dancing. But either they were all blown away before what they'd seen, or they didn't know exactly when, and we had come on up, we're trying to mime it, we come up and join, but Ghost of a Chance because of that. And then the other one would be, what was it called? The Speed of Love.
Oh, yeah.
And the band we got to play our wedding, they love their music as well, and they always like learning something different. And they'd always said, oh, we hate having to go and do the same songs at weddings, like whatever's popular, and Ed Sheeran's and stuff like that, because they were into the kind of rock stuff as well. So we just told them, have free reign. There might be a couple of ones that we ask for, or some people might ask for requests, but play what you like. And they had a great time playing all the kind of heavier tunes that they don't normally play, Led Zeppelin, or what was the other one that people went?
Like Thin Lizzy and
Wheatus, they did Teenage Dirtbag as well.
And, yeah.
So as a surprise, I'd said, look, I says, could you learn a song for us and play it? So that was the Speed of Love. And Lauren didn't know that I'd asked him for this. So I don't know. I can't remember what you were doing at the time when it came on, but
I don't think it was.
No, so you take over for this point.
I was going to say it wasn't very glamorous. I think I was on my way back from the toilet or something. I just peeled away, and then ended up. I just have this memory of like either I was coming back from the toilet or I was like, in the kitchen, like finger picking the buffet or whatever. Like it was something just so like casual. And then I just remember walking back into like the main hall, like where we had our reception, and then I clocked that the band were playing Speed of Love, and I was just like, where's my husband? We need to dance to this now and stuff, So it's just like it took me so by surprise, and even more so that the band, for them to learn that, like Rush, like Spirit of Radio and all that, like everybody knows those ones, whereas like a song like The Speed of Love, like it's a bit kind of like sing me Rush The Speed of Love, like you're like, what? It's a little bit more obscure, I think, unless obviously if you're a Rush fan you kind of know, but yeah, it's just
It's not one you're going to hear in the radio too often, that kind of thing.
not too often, no. Yeah.
But that's what I remember him saying. He says that it was good because it was harder than usual for a song to learn. But he says at the same time, it's not the hardest Rush song that I know is out there. So it was quite glad I had to ask for something that was really complex.
I know, like,
but-
play La Villa Strangiato, please.
And I don't think he was familiar with it as well. So he says, I enjoyed that. He says, I liked it as a song as well. So he says, it's always good when you get one like that. And says, obviously it's appropriate for that kind of event. So he says, well, maybe keep it up the sleeves for if folk are asking for more kind of rock, like a rockier wedding or something like that, just to have still kind of a rock band, but have a slower one that they can play through the set, you know?
Adding it to their catalogue or repertoire.
Repertoire.
That's awesome. So basically you affected all weddings that band will do later. That'll be your lasting.
Didn't know it at the time, but here we are.
Yeah, because someone else is going to request the speed of rock.
You never know. Someone
If they do, they can play
it. They might play it at a wedding, and
Like, what was the song?
and they're like, "Wait, what was the song?"
That's awesome.
Man, that's so cool. Just so cool. From that first Rush concert that you sacrificed yourself to the
To customer service.
to retail, and all the way to your wedding. Is so cool how
I love that.
Rush has just always been there. Well, thank you so much for coming on here with us and for spending your time on your afternoon, our morning.
It's been an absolute pleasure. Absolute pleasure.
So, is there anything that you would want people to check out for your stuff? Like what your Instagram account or anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, my Instagram page is public anyway, so I'll drop the handle, no bother. But I go on Instagram as Life of Lauren, and there's 2 L's in life and there's 2 L's in Lauren. And it's literally just that. Like I just blog and vlog and document like my life, like if it covers, art, it covers music, it covers, what I have for dinner that day, just all sorts of stuff. Like, literally, it's just about my life. And it's a very self-aware Instagram. Like I'm very self-aware of what I'm doing. Like I don't like to fall into the trap of like, Instagram influencer, like it's like a wee bit kind of like tongue in cheek with it as well, which I'm having a lot of fun with just now. So so that's where people can find me if they want to join, then they can. It's cool.
I will follow you.
Well, any other things that you guys want to share about your Rush journey, or?
Well, I'll give a shout out first of all. There's one thing I think would be nice to share.
Yeah.
But I'm just going to just make sure I get the exact thing right. So, first of all, much like your Instagram, but this isn't a personal thing, but this is just if people aren't aware, it's just to big up the Rush Fest Scotland.
Oh.
It's a Rush, or a fan-run festival that's gone on since 2014. We've been at, I think there was only 2 years we haven't attended, I think.
Uh-huh.
And then obviously 2020, something happened in the world that it wasn't able to take. I'm not sure what it was. There was a reason it was cancelled in 2020. I'm not sure what. In fact, tell a lie, it wasn't cancelled in 2020. It was online in 2020. It was cancelled at the last minute last year because of, I think we went back into a lockdown or something. Or the restrictions hadn't been able to lift in time, and it was too short notice to do online. So this year was the first year again. It was in person. In person. I was going to say live action. That was the wrong thing.
Well, live action, yeah. In person.
Live action.
And it'll be on again next year if anyone's interested in coming. But To give an idea, Rushfest Scotland, for every year they've always raised money for different cancer charities, usually hospices and patient care facilities, just for making people comfortable that aren't
Aye.
going to have too many days left, shall we say. But this year, they've just, it was this week, they were able to give the final total for what money was right, because it was 2 weekends ago now it was on.
2 Saturdays ago
Two
was
Saturdays
the
ago.
Saturday.
And that was what your set of the original paintings
Aye.
for Neil Arks and Geddy,
Mm-hmm.
they were donated to.
I donated those paintings as part of the charity auction. So those paintings people were able to bid on them, and then the money would go towards this charity pot. So
in total, there was £15,237 raised and 48 pence. And £4,000, that's about $5,000. That's already been sent to the Glioblastoma Foundation Neil Peart Neurosurgery Research Award in North Carolina.
Oh, awesome.
I had to get that up so I got the name right.
Yeah.
And then next month there's going to be one of those big check, the big oversized check things. But the check handover for the rest of it is going to a local cancer. Was it the Beatson Hospital? Or it's in Glasgow, and it's related to the caregiving related to the hospital.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they try and change it every year just so that it's not always the same.
Spreading it out.
Spreading it out around the different ones. So that's on again next year, and it's a great night, a great day usually. But this was the first 3-day weekend. Jacob Moon, you might be familiar with, he was over for it doing some sets. Live music, different tribute bands and live music this time, and auctions, raffles, stuff like that. And there's artwork donated, as it says, or different prizes. This year we won a set of Neil Peart Pro Mark drumsticks. We got a lovely little, what was it, like a kind of laser cut Hemispheres logo into a little kind of wood thing. And on the auction, I won the Travelling the Face of the Earth Rush touring book. But there was plenty of different things that have been donated over the years. I think there was a signed copy of Envy of Nuns album, all the Bandicoot and Alec, different things like that. So there's always, in terms of prizes, there's always got good things that have been donated, not just from fans, but from like the Rush family, I suppose, in Canada themselves, you know. So
it's a good diverse, like, it's a good diverse event, you know. It's diverse in attendees, it's diverse in raffle prizes and auction prizes, you know. It's just, that's how I would sum it up. And it's a really like positive and like really intimate like event too, because it's like fan run. It's not like a massive convention, you know. It's quite, you know, there was like, I think there was about 400 people there, and that sounds like a lot, but like I think that was a good number to kind of create that feel of like busyness, but also it wasn't too big that you couldn't, you know, stop and talk to your pals and stuff. And
it's like a family as well, because everybody knows each other, and it was larger this year, so there was more people you got to meet. And
there was that buzz as well, because it was the first time of being in person, you know, since a global pandemic and stuff. And so there was a kind of a wee bit of excitement there. Like everyone was really excited to see one another again, and like being in a kind of live music environment too, you know, like to have that back as well was really moving as well. So yeah.
So you've still got prints available of the 3 pictures. So that's the money from that will still go to the Rushfest Scotland.
Yes.
And there's also they've done tribute albums, covers by Rush covers by different tribute bands around the world, and I believe they're still on sale as well. And the money from that goes into the pot. And I think anything raised between now will be going into next year's pot for the charities. But so always a good amount of money.
And if you can't make it to Rushfest Scotland, then we will be sad. But at the same time, like these events I like to think my background when I'm not at home painting, like my actual qualified background is like event management. So, you know, it makes my heart happy when I see like events like this that are, you know, so much hard work goes into that. Like, it's so much. It's a whole year's worth of planning. You know, for as Daniel said, like a 3-day festival, you know, so it makes my heart happy when people work so hard behind the scenes and like people attend this event, and it's literally, this is going to sound pure cheesy, but it's literally life-changing. Like it is. It's so, like, the memories that you make from events like this, you know, so that's what I was going to say. So I'll be sad if you can't come to Rushfest Scotland, but I hope fan-run charity events like this like inspire people to, you know, like do their own, like in their own area. Like I think there's something I think there's something quite beautiful about that. Like, we love this band and we want to raise money for charity, you know, it's just like, boom, resist.
Would I have time to share one more little story?
Yeah, for sure.
So the R40 tour never came over to Europe. So the last time we got to see Rush was in the Clockwork Angels tour.
It was Time Machine and then Clockwork Angels, wasn't it?
Now we managed to get tickets near the front for that last minute, which was quite lucky. And at the time, I had just finished reading books by a Scottish, let me get this term right, naturalist called Tom Weir, and he television programmes on in the sort of late 80s, early 90s, and he would go about off the beaten track, meeting local people, seeing what was going on. And his writing style was very similar to Neil's. And I thought, I think Neil would like the books. And I know, having read his books, he says the only kind of interaction he liked with people was people that sent him books because he liked reading and stuff. And so I thought, I'll get a couple extra copies and I'll see if I can get them back to Neil. So I'd put them in a little bag and I put a little note just to say who they were from and why I was giving them these books, kind of thing. And I'd put a return address, mostly just for, you know, just if somebody could send a note to, so I know that he'd got them okay, you know. And it was given to the security, gig security, you know, could have went in the bin for all we know, because we don't want anything going backstage, it could be dodgy. About 6 months, maybe even a year or so went past. Completely forgotten all about it. And a package arrives from Canada.
What?
And I open it up, and it's a copy of hardback copy of the Far and Away book. Now I'm going, I bought that at the Time Machine gig. I didn't order that. Again, above us. So open it up and try to figure out why I've got another copy. No note or anything. And then in the inside page, there's a little note written in the book. And it says, "To Daniel, with thanks for the Tom Weir books, as you noted clearly, a kindred spirit from birds to drums to whiskey to words. Happy travels. Signed by the man himself, Neil Peart. P.S. See Angel's Landing story." Now, I flicked through the book and I couldn't find an Angel's Landing story. So I thought, maybe he's meant Haste Ye Back, November 2007, because that was when he was going around Scotland, and that would have been the Snakes and Arrows tour. Mm-hmm. So I thought maybe he meant that one. Maybe he's put the wrong reference in or something. And at the time, I'd forgotten he had his blog that would put the different stories up on. So maybe about, what was it, last year at some point, someone had shared, they'd been going through their copy of Far and Near, and they'd spotted a little bit and put it up on Facebook and went, "Oh, it's good that you'd known about this." So this would have been about, 8 years or so after the fact. 2012. But eight, 9 years after this had happened, I'd got a copy of Far and Near, but like most books in my collection, I've got the book to get it. I'll read it at some point, and I'm reading it. And so I opened it up, and sure enough, there's an Angel's Landing story in it. So because it was a different book, I had registered that maybe it was in a different book. And when you get to page 314, my personal dining companions on that trip were my journal and a book, Weir's World, sent to me during the European tour by a Scottish fan. Thanks, Dad.
What?
It was a nicely written, nature-based autobiography published in '94 by Tom Weir. And it goes on to describe Tom Weir and saying that they had a similar love of similar things. And so that was 8 years after it happened. And it would have been... hold on, check the back of my t-shirt, get my date right.
There's no date on this.
Oh, was it on the front? Oh, was it 2020 or 2021 Neil passed? 2020?
2020.
2020. So it was after Neil had died anyway.
Mhm.
So to me it was like a little Neil just working his magic. Obviously it was written well before, but at a personal level it was like a little bit of magic from Neil coming out, after he'd gone as well, because I've had the book, it's been on the shelf, I just never got out of looking at it.
It's been there, sitting there the whole time, and we didn't even know.
And that puzzle was finally answered, and it was just that little spark of magic from Mr. Pierce.
I don't know if the camera will pick it up. I don't know if you want to but
No.
we're not kidding like that. So that's the book. So he's
Wow.
so that's what he's written on the inside, and then
I'll swap it over.
yeah.
I'll see if I can point it out. Oh, let me get the right page. Oh, got the right.
Oh, there it is.
There you
Oh
go.
my goodness. Thanks, Daniel. You're famous.
So that's what we joked about a bit. It wasn't that. It was more just the fact that I'd been oblivious to this for years.
That's the funny bit of it. It's just like
And to me, it was more just, as it says, it was more just one little bit of magic coming from his pen after the fact.
Neil doesn't believe in magic.
Oh, you know what I mean.
Yeah, but it's such a cool conversation thing, because then people be like, "Who's Daniel? Who's this Daniel?" Like,
And then they find out it's me, and they go, "Oh, it's him."
That's so cool.
Wow.
so yeah,
Yeah,
so I think that's a really cool thing to end on. I would say,
That's
like,
my claim to fame.
we
But it's
can't
just
top that.
It's like showing off of I've got a signed book. In his book, it's the story that goes with it.
It's the story, yeah. It's not about like,
That.
because we know collectors and we know music fans can be hardcore, like really intense. But this is not about. It's not about showing off. It's just that it's
No.
the thing of just being
Seriously.
like, oh my god, I can't believe the book got to him. So
Yeah.
even processing that of like him like touching the book that we had like prepared to give him and stuff, and then he went away and sat and read the book. Then he took the time to write this, sign the book and then send it to us, send it to Daniel, and then write another paragraph about it in another upcoming book. It was nuts, the impact that you thought that just, I'll wrap a wee book. I think Neil would like this, and then it was just one thing after the other. Like, it's really, really cool.
Love that.
That's really touching.
Yeah, because I think that shows how down to earth as a band Rush is. They care about their fans enough to take the time to look at a gift and not just be like, oh, someone gave me something, but to spend the time with it and incorporate it into their lives, and then take the time to reach out. And man, I just love that story so much.
They're just guys.
I know.
Yeah.
That makes him so cool.
People that choose to do cool things like that.
Yeah.
Like, so awesome. Thank you for telling us that story. I'm so glad I've heard it.
Yeah. Thank you guys so much.
Post it. Like, that's so
Yeah.
I'm glad you guys shared it with us, so then we can
Yeah, I'm glad that everybody else will be able to hear that story. You get to have that other bit of Rush trivia.
And connection to Neil.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I know. That's
Thank you so much for spending your time with us, and we'll let you know when this goes live, and we'll have your Instagram handle, and and we'll have all the information about the
RushCon.
the Scotland.
What's
the name? The real name?
Rush Fest Scotland.
Rushfest Scotland. Yes. And
That's the thing. So unfortunately, their Instagram presence is nil. They all do it on they all do it on Facebook and like online and stuff. Like
Okay.
I say online, like
it's their
just
own
through their
website.
website. So people who don't have social media or don't use it, but as I said, who doesn't use social media these
Yeah.
days? So it's
Yeah.
terrifying, but also really good for networking. But so yeah, I'll try and persuade them to get on the Instags and the TikToks and where all the young folk are. Like
Even if it's just the
So-
website too, like both are good.
Yeah, but it definitely has my wheels turning for seeing if there is one in Dallas, and then two, if not, see what we can do to pull things together, because that sounds like a great thing.
Or go to that one.
Yeah, definitely. I've always wanted to go to Scotland, but that gives me another reason.
I'll don't take this as the final word, but like I'll see if I can speak to the organisers and I'll try and convince them to maybe invite you over as guests.
Ooh.
Maybe Rush discuss.
Live
Our little tiny
Discuss
little
live
podcast
reaction to
That would
live
be
reaction to Rush
corner of
Fest.
the internet.
That would be awesome.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely let us know about that. But anyway, you guys have a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you so much again, and we look forward to potentially having you on again to talk more Rush.
All right, that's going to do it for today. Like I said, next week we have our battle episode of Ghost of a Chance and Faithless. Really great episode, in my opinion, but you'll just have to go and listen to it. But if you want to subscribe to us, that'd be excellent. If you want to tell other people about us, that'd be excellent. We hope that you guys have enjoyed getting these other experiences from other Rush fans, and hopefully this helps you to reflect on what the band has meant to you. And it was so awesome having Daniel share that encounter that he had with Neil through sharing that book with him and getting to have that little shout out in a book from Neil. We had no idea that he was going to share that story, so that was really cool for us to be able to share that with him and to share that with you guys. So if there's anybody out there who has a story like that they'd like to share, or just like to share how Rush has impacted your life, reach out to us. We're always willing to have people on because we feel like this is a way to help other people who maybe aren't huge fans of the band to understand why it is that this band has such a lasting impact on so many people. But anyway, you stay classy and you keep on listening to Rush, and we will join you next time for the Rush Discussion.